We have so far, Ethan?
Well, we've had a lot of people email me saying they got either a cold today or they're not feeling the best. So we have only 4 people in person, but we'll have some people join online. So this is actually streaming to our YouTube. So we'll have people watching that as well, just because they couldn't attend in person, and some people are in quarantine because of the pandemic. But yeah, every club is pretty much battling with the same thing we're kind of battling. It's still the attendance issues with the pandemic and spreading the word to get more people to come to join our club. And so we're putting on some events. We got Scare Fest, which is a giant festivity in our common center. So that is pretty much like a Halloween costume party. We're going to give away some gifts and some prizes and also have a DJ come in. So that's one of our big events that we have coming up on November 5th. And then we have one coming up in the next couple of weeks, which is a volleyball tournament to kind of get some more engagement and members for our club, hopefully.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Well, how have you been, Tim? Long time no see.
Yeah, fortunately, have not had COVID strike myself or my immediate family, so that's been a good thing. Happy for that. Otherwise, plugging away. A little disappointed the Brewers season is over. Hard to watch playoff baseball now without them, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely feel that. We have a couple people from Minnesota, so they're not really Brewers fans.
Hockey started.
Yeah, we got a couple hockey fans. Allie, are you from Wisconsin or from Minnesota? Okay, so we have
Packers, Brewers, Bucks.
Okay, we do have some other Wisconsin fans in there.
Bucks start tomorrow night.
They do, yeah, against the Nets.
Yeah, and my Rangers, my New York Rangers, are 1-1, off to a good start in the NHL world.
There you go.
I imagine Eau Claire hockey is getting ready to get rolling too in the next week or two.
Yeah, I want to say they have their first game either this weekend or next weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
One
I think
thing I have to say is the Minnesota Wild are 2-0, so.
Well, I have been to a couple Wild games, actually, one more than I've been to a Ranger game, so I guess that says something.
Yeah, I haven't been. That's the thing. Wild games are expensive. That's the whole thing. They sell like every single game too.
Yeah, hockey tickets are pretty ridiculous, actually.
They are.
They are.
I want to say it's still like $100 to sit upper deck, and I mean, like,
really?
yeah. I would go to one as a college student. It's just that it's the drive plus $100 plus probably $20, $30 of the parking. Just isn't worth it at that point.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours for tonight.
Okay.
So we're all ready. There's a couple more people walking in, but we're ready to listen to you and see what you have to say tonight.
All right. Thank you, Ethan. So hello, everybody. For those who were not in attendance in the spring, I think it was, my name's Tim DeRozier. I am the Talent Development Manager at Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, where I have the pleasure of leading a team that really drives our faculty development, our leadership development, our general employee development. Hey, Ethan, is it possible? Am I going to only be staring at myself this whole time, or can the camera?
Oh, you don't see
that? No,
now you see me?
Now I see you. There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, you see me. I don't think our camera can turn around very well, so you're kind of stuck with me.
Well, it's better split screen where I've got half of you, half of me, rather than just looking at my face the whole time. So thank you.
True. All right.
So anyway, working in leadership development, faculty development, general professional development, and a significant focus of ours as an organization, and it's only increased here in the last couple years, is our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And I'm sure the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire has their own diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Some of you may be involved in some of that, and I look forward to hearing more from you during our conversation today. And that's really how I view this, as a conversation about belonging. And there are a number of statistics we'll talk about and why belonging is important in the workforce, some of why it's important in an educational institution and how it drives, retention for students, and even some of the recruiting aspects for students. But the concept of belonging is something that has been really ingrained into us by human nature, and the need to belong and the want to belong. It's all a part of our hierarchy of needs. And it's something that organizations are becoming more and more aware of, from a productivity standpoint in the workplace, an engagement standpoint, just overall happiness at work, and all of that ties together. So I thought we'd have a chat about that tonight. I want to start with doing a simple activity, and I was going to have you break into groups of 4 to 6, but I think we've got 4 to 6, so we'll just start there. So here's what I want you to do first. Well, let's try something before we do that. Let's define belonging. So when I use the term belonging and that it's an important thing, what do you think of when you hear the term belonging?
Say it. Come up here and say it. It'll make it easier.
I think of being a part of a community.
Okay, and who's that speaking?
Sam?
Okay, Sam, thank you.
Anybody else want to share?
Being like, again, this is Carter. Something along the lines of that as well too, but like having a sense that you're a part of something as a whole, or like something that's to the greater good of I guess an organization or whatever you're a part of.
Okay, so kind of that sense of being a part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, almost like having like a purpose too, in that something bigger.
Okay, great. Anybody else have thoughts?
I don't see anybody else wanting to share.
Association.
Oh, so Caden said association.
Thank you, Caden. Yeah, I think all of these are good definitions or partial definitions of what it means to belong to something. The definition that I'm operating off of gets part of those elements, but when a person feels included and accepted for their authentic self. In other words, I don't feel like I need to be somebody different when I'm in a certain environment in order to fit in order to belong, in order to feel like I have an opportunity to move up, or that it's a good place for me to be academically. If I can just bring who I am into a space and feel like I should be there, that's belonging. And organizations are increasingly trying to create this for their employees for a number of different reasons. But what I want you to do right now is visualize a couple of things. First, maybe close your eyes. This helps, I think, for some people. Close your eyes. Unless you're not comfortable closing your eyes, that's okay too. I know folks who are not comfortable doing that. But I want you to think about a time in your life. You think about that definition of belonging that I just gave, where you felt an incredible sense of belonging. You were with your peeps. You didn't have to be anybody different in order to feel like you fit in. Think about that time and just visualize that for a minute. Okay. All right. Somebody want to share their example? When was that?
So kind of for me, like growing up playing sports was probably like lacrosse or hockey and stuff, specifically in like the high school team, just because like you're playing and then there's a bunch of people watching you. But something on the other side of it too is like I remember I was younger and like I was that fringe player where I was playing like fourth line, maybe JV as well too. And like that was one time where I didn't really felt like I belonged a part of the team, even though I was a part of the team.
Yeah.
Just that I was older, I had a bigger responsibility, a bigger role to like the bigger picture at that point.
Okay. Thanks, Carter. So team sports, that creates a sense of belonging for a lot of folks. Tell me, Carter, can you tell me what it felt like? Like, what did it feel like when you were being watched by fans, when you really felt like you fit in playing lacrosse or hockey? Like, tell me some of the emotions that you experienced because of that.
I just kind of have a sense of like, in a way, like pride, as in like maybe giving that extra effort just for the fact, like if, for example, if there is like a ground ball in lacrosse, like I'm going to try to run a little bit harder to get the ball because I know there's a million people watching me. And I know there's a bunch of people depending on me as well too, like on my team as well. Just, you want to represent your school as good as well too. But also too, I think I had like a feeling, mainly with, making sure that, if I perform my best, just because I had all the eyes on me as well too.
What did it feel like to come to practice or games?
I would say practice was different, of course, just because you didn't have the fans there, but like that motivation from your coaches or like your teammates really helped. But like games are always different. Like it seemed like there was like, like someone, there's an extra boost of adrenaline just because there was, somebody was there or like the whole crowd was there, everybody was cheering. So there's always like an extra boost of kind of like, you might be tired and then you hear everybody cheering for you right away, or if you're cheering for your team, you're like, oh, I'm not even tired anymore. I don't even know why my legs are sore.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Carter. How about someone else with an experience of when you really felt like you belonged somewhere? What did that feel like?
Anybody else want to share something? You want to come up, Sam? Sam's gonna come up again.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say probably just this past summer at my internship, the people that had already been working there really welcomed me in and made me feel part of the organization right away.
What did they do to welcome you, Sam?
They just made me feel like I was a regular full-time employee, and they didn't treat me like an intern. They treated me like a regular employee, like everybody else.
Great. So how did it feel to come to work every day?
It felt good. I mean, I didn't feel like I was an outcast. I felt like I was a part of the group, and we were all working towards a shared goal, and it was great.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks.
Anybody else? I guess I'll just add something. I personally think creating this organization myself has kind of made me feel as a sense of belonging, seeing that we can get people to come on a night from 7 to 8 or come to some events and support our organization. It kind of has made me feel belonging at school, but also getting this group together has been kind of like a family to me. Hearing from you guys coming in, I really appreciate it. And it just makes me feel special and feel happy and belonged. So it's kind of my 2 cents.
Thanks, Ethan. So when it's time for an E3 event and you've got people to coordinate, speakers to coordinate, the audio, visual, everything else that you're controlling there on your end, that's a lot of work. But because of that sense of belonging, does that change the way you look at doing that work?
Yeah, I mean, at first, you usually, when you have all this work to yourself or with a couple other people, you get really stressed out most of the time, or you kind of want to give up. But when you have an event, so last year, we had our volleyball event, and honestly, as a new organization, the pandemic, we didn't expect to be that successful with it. Turned out we had 12 teams and we had over 100 people come. Mm-hmm. So that was like very high hopes for us. We kind of thought, okay, this year would be really, really good. And then our first meeting, we had about 45 people come in, just kind of to the general meeting saying, hey, this is what E3 organization is going to be. This is what we want to do with the club. And it was cool to see how many eyes were just excited about this organization, that we are going to be back on putting more events up, and we're going to host these meetings. And we understand as college students, people are busy. They can't always attend meetings, but if you want to benefit yourself in the future, these meetings are definitely worthwhile.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So another flip side this time, I need you to close your eyes again, if you're comfortable closing your eyes. Now, consider a time when you felt like a fish out of water, like you didn't belong in a specific environment. Either you felt it, or others maybe even expressed it to you. You felt like a little bit of an outcast. Think about that time and how that made you feel, and I'll give you a minute to do that. Really visualize it. Okay, now I know, Carter, you had given an example earlier about being a bench player instead of a starter, and that was an example. Do you want to elaborate on that?
I mean, I actually have a better one that's like I would say even more kind of like different. So like I was a band kid in high school as well too. So I ended up playing like just the regular alto saxophone until like I was about like a sophomore, junior in high school. Then I took on the Barry sax, which is like kind of like the deeper, bigger saxophone.
Yeah.
And with that, I ended up like moving up into the upper band. And I remember it was like one of my first days practicing with the upper band, and like I like honestly could not like use enough air, and I was squeaking so much. And I just knew like every time we stopped or something like that, I just had eyes on me, and I was always behind tempo. And like with that, with like, I mean, like, yes, like sports and stuff, like there's like one bad player, like, stuff like happens, but like in a band, like everybody's got to be in tempo or else everybody gets off. And like that feeling of like being bad or kind of just like learning at that point made sure that like I didn't want that feeling ever to happen again or have all those eyes staring at me. And so in a way, it like forced me to practice and get better. And then I ended up being, really, really successful at playing that instrument as the years went on.
My son plays the alto sax, and they asked him to switch to Barry. And
Yeah, do it.
playing Barry.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's the best jazz band instrument ever. And I don't know. It's huge anyways. Just don't buy one. It's super expensive. I never bought one.
Yeah, and don't plan on carrying it around on your own for a while either. That's heavy.
No, yeah. I had like a whole, like my whole neck, my strap was like a body strap for me too, just because like I didn't want any back problems from it.
Anybody else want to share?
I can.
Okay, Abby's gonna come up and share.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Okay. Where am I? Oh, okay. So I was a gymnast until I was like 17 or 16. And then I went and joined studio dance. And I had like never danced in my life. And everyone there was like obviously super experienced. But like, I don't know, it was fine. I ended up doing really well and making like the top teams and everything. But just as someone who came from like a totally different background versus people who grew up dancing their whole life, it was just really intimidating.
Mhm.
And it was like almost like embarrassing, but wasn't that serious.
But you ended up succeeding anyway in the long run.
Yeah.
For Abby, for you or Carter, I'm curious. Did you have anyone within those groups when you moved up and you felt out of place, whether it was the instructor or peers or friends that reached out to you to help you, I guess, acclimate?
I guess I did. I ended up dancing with some girls that I did gymnastics with anyway. So whether it was like doing like private lessons or anything, it was easy to get along with them and try to find my way to fit in.
Luckily for us, for our band and stuff, we ended up doing like quartets or like kind of saxophone combos on the side. And so like while we had our regular band practice and stuff, we would have features before the concert before it. So I was able to actually, sit down and play with all our saxophones because it's pretty much almost the same instrument anytime you go. It was just the ability to sit with people who were in the band, that upper band for longer, and then kind of just, actually play with them and be like, yeah, like everybody struggles playing this instrument right away. And just kind of having that feeling like it's going to take me a second to figure it out and do it. And of course, this like pushes from like your professors and your instructors and stuff like that. Like they always have your back, or at least they should have your back.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else want to share an example of maybe feeling left out or not like you belonged?
I'm just gonna add one that I think everybody kind of feels sometimes, and I honestly think it's the pressure of college. I mean, before you get into college, you have to take an ACT test, and your friends will gossip about it. Other people will gossip about it. Ask how you did. Find out how you did, and you could either be in that group or you could be an outcast. I mean, for me, I didn't do too hot on it, so I was probably on the outcast end of it. But you could also look at it in a sense of college classes, your first exam, your second exam, a midterm, a final. People always gossip about grades, test scores, etc. They want to know what you get. So I had a marketing exam probably last week, and the average for the exam was like a 72. And then there's always these people walking up, oh, what did you get? What did you get? What did you get? Well, I hate to break to you, I didn't do that hot on it. So like I had to say that and they're like, "Oh, really? It wasn't that hard." And it's just like stuff like that. It's like, well, obviously it was pretty difficult if people are only getting a 72% on it. So but yeah, I think college is just there's people that are either going to be outcasts or in the middle of things, but it happens to everybody.
I would say the other part too with college too, like at least getting up in some of your upper classes, like not saying this is good, but usually I like to go out on Thursday nights, but sometimes I have to keep my nights in on Thursdays just for like studying and doing tests and stuff like that. But it's like all my friends, at least all my lacrosse buddies, people that I, hang out with, like they always go out on Thursday nights, whether it's going bowling or going out to the bars or house parties or something like that. And just, you're at home doing homework, you're at home doing stuff for yourself and you're getting that text or you're getting that Snapchat. So like you almost have that FOMO, and not saying that like no one's being mean to you for shaming you for like studying and stuff. It's just like you have to do it for yourself, and you're gonna have to take that alone time. And it does kind of suck how easy it is to go on your phone and get distracted for 10 minutes and like being like, wow, I wish I was there.
Yeah, I would agree with that one a lot. Like last Thursday, where we wanted to have like a social event, we had to turn people down because we had schoolwork and
Exactly.
stuff. But yeah, it's like college is a lot of that outsider stuff, I'd say, too.
Yeah. Well, if you think even to your, I'll just reference high school days, right? And Carter talked a little about being in the band, but I think kids, especially in that middle school age, maybe early high school, are really good at noticing differences. Really good at noticing who belongs in what area and who doesn't belong in what area, and if what clique you're a part of and what clique you're not a part of. And this is all very natural human behavior. Unfortunately, it's sociologists talk about in-group and out-group behavior. Maybe you've heard that before. I don't know, but you're part of an in-group, and if you're not in the in-group, you're part of the out-group. And schools tend to perpetuate that a bit and really create intentional lack of belonging. And sometimes we see that happen in the workforce as well. And maybe you see it in other areas of the college where you have kind of that intentional in-group creation, which automatically makes some people feel left out.
Yeah. I would also like to add, though, just because you're an outsider doesn't mean you need to change your values or your morals. A lot of my high school friends were vaping and doing all that stuff, and I kind of stood strong. I was like, I'm not going to get into that stuff. So it doesn't matter what it is, but be true to yourself, I would say, to add to your end of that.
That's great. And I would say that part of what we'll hit toward the end here is how important it is for an organization to allow people to be true to themselves and to not expect that conformity. Now, hopefully it's not anything unethical or illegal, like some of the things that you may have been describing are unhealthy, but there are certain norms within organizations that within a culture of an organization are expected that may go against your values. And how does that work then for the employee and the organization is also something to consider. In fact, it's an awesome lead-in, Ethan, to a video. Now, this video is about 8 minutes in length. It's longer than I would typically show, but I do think it gets at the core of belonging. And maybe what I'd like you to pay attention, it's a Pixar video, so it's fun. You may have seen it. It's a short that was before, I don't remember which movie, Incredibles 2 or something, I don't know. But the video is called Pearl, and it's about a company, an investment firm that hired a ball of yarn, which I know sounds silly, but it is animated. But I want you to pay attention to some of the elements of where Pearl, who's the lead, may feel included and where they may feel excluded, and what some of the characters do or don't do to help with that. And we'll transition that into some of our tips for inclusion and belonging. So let me grab that.
Just hit share and you should be good to go.
Yeah, I just have to make sure I'm telling you which screen I want to share. I'm going to move my Pearl video to a different screen and do it that way. All right, here we go. Was this going to share audio okay then as well?
It should.
All right, let's run it.
We don't hear anything.
Okay. Let me see if there's a way to try to adjust audio here quick.
We can just look it up real quick.
Yeah, I gave you the link, Ethan.
Yeah.
Do you just want to run it there? Can
Yep.
you do that?
Yep. Oh my gosh, I cannot type today.
Pearl. I guarantee it's right here.
And I'll just stop sharing here.
Pixar short. Bang.
8 minutes long. Oh, nice.
Ah.
What's up? Gym tonight? Welcome to VRO Capital. Yeah, so you'll be up on the 4th floor with investments and, what? The Tigers are up by 20? Yes! Anyway, it's entry level, but your resume was by far the strongest. I'm sure you'll fit right in.
Thanks! I still think it's unbelievable that I'm really here.
Unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable.
Ugh, I'm so excited. I have a really good feeling about this. Good morning. Hi there.
Did you see they hired a ball like you?
Morning, gentlemen.
Hey, what's the difference between a porcupine and a BMW? With the porcupine, the bricks are on the outside.
Good one. So, why do spiders weave webs? Because they don't know how to crochet.
Is that like a sport or something?
Like with the needles and, you know?
Hey guys, staff meeting. As you can see, we've got a big fat failure on our hands. So, finance wants answers. Ideas?
Excuse me.
Okay, what's our strategy here?
Guys, let's bring finance in and knit our strategies together.
What? Nah, you're being too soft. We gotta be aggressive. Yeah, we gotta be aggressive.
Alright, okay, let's put a pin in it. Who's down for 2 for 1 wings and Swifties?
Hey, got everybody?
Yeah, that's everybody. Alright, first round's on Gronkowski.
Gronkowski.
Pearl? Did she always sit there? I don't even recognize her.
So then he says, I know the suit is expensive, baby, but at my apartment, it's 100% off.
She tells us that it goes to you.
Hey guys, staff meeting. Well, these results speak for themselves. But finance is still asking for.
I say we go for it, and if finance doesn't like it, they can kiss our ass.
All right.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Let's go. Happy hour, Swifties. Is that everybody? No, hold up. Not everybody.
You don't love this place, Pearl.
Pearl, you're gonna eat so many rings.
Oh, thank goodness you're still here. I had such a time trying to find this place. Oh, I missed my stop, and then I didn't know what floor we were on the sir. Because Kyle from HR went home early, so I'm door to door on each flight.
Leave the knitting at your Nana's house.
Then I can't wait to be part of the team. Guys?
Hey, where are you going?
Hi, I'm Pearl. I'm Lacey.
What are they doing?
That was such a fright. Hey guys, this is Lacey. Welcome to BRO Capital. You'll be up on the 4th floor with investments.
Thanks. It's still kind of unbelievable that I'm here.
I would say it's unbelievable.
Wow, I have a really good feeling about this.
Well, come on, let me show you around. Tell us all about yourself. We do love a good yard.
Hey, Pearl, you guys coming to Swifties tonight?
Is a wool sweater scratchy?
Nice.
That was
How many yarn puns can anyone endure?
That was unbelievable.
Thanks.
pretty-
So tell me some of your takeaways from the video, and as we relate it to belonging, and we think about how that, what we saw in the workplace there for Pearl.
Anyone want to share?
Well, I guess the first thing is that she she thought she had to change herself to fit in, which does suck, honestly. And like in some sense, like if that's the way that some cultures like that, it does suck like that, and honestly makes for an unhealthy culture. But I guess again, in the end, she ended up like kind of helping everybody kind of change to like the right way that it should be done. Because personally, I'm going into that finance culture, and I'm like, I don't want to be like an asshole. I guess I would say like that, just because like at least the way I do it. But there's always like a stigma about people being in that certain industry in some way as well too. So it's kind of sadly interesting, but relatable in some way.
Yeah, Carter, I want to comment on something you said there about culture, because, and I can use NWTC as an example. We really pride ourselves on having a strong intended intentional culture, however you want to think about it. So we have nine values, which if you ask me is probably too many, but that's where we're at. We have 9 values. It's a really strong culture that's been in existence for probably a little more than a decade with these same values. And we view that as a really good thing because our culture is very positive and very strong. But I think what you saw in the video and what you referenced about strong cultures, they can actually be unhealthy in a way if they're not accepting of other viewpoints or ways of being. And that's something from a diversity standpoint. So when we talk on campus about our own diversity and equity and inclusion initiatives here, when we bring people in with different ideas, sometimes they run into that wall that is our intentional culture. And then we don't keep them because they don't fit in. They don't feel like they belong. They're fighting against a really strong culture. And that's a concern for NWTC. As great a place as I think this is to work, it's a really strong culture. And if you come in and try to change that culture, you're going to run into some barriers. And we're working to be more open and progressive. But it's hard when the culture has served so many so well for so long, right?
Yeah, and I think that's one thing too that at least for this club and other clubs that I'm a part of, like when you emphasize, interviews and stuff, trying to figure out a company's culture through your interviews, whether that be, asking different employees with anybody you interview about what they like about the company, what they don't like about the company, some things they could change because, maybe it's a great company and, they're doing a great job, but it might not be the right fit for you. And, that might just be it for a lot of people too. And it's really trying to figure out how you fit in that culture or how you don't fit in that culture as well too.
Yeah, it's a great point. And as a individual working for a company, you have to make that decision. Is it the right place for me with its existing culture? And as a company or an organization, you have to think about how open are we to having our culture shift a little bit when it needs to. And if we're going to have a diversity initiative within the college, we can't expect, I'll give you an example. A previous organization I worked at, Schneider National, big orange trucks. You've probably seen them on the road. And we used to do an example when anybody come into the organization, someone would ask them, "Have you been Schneiderized yet?" Right? And so what that meant is between 6 months and a year, you start talking the same language. You're a part of the Schneider culture. You're bleed orange because that was the color at some point. And it was meant as a positive being Schneiderized. But we'd walk through an activity where if you kind of had this Schneiderization box, and you might come in as a banana because we wanted to hire someone different. You go into this box and you come out as an orange because you've been Schneiderized. Is that a good thing? And that's like, well, maybe. What is that a good thing? What do you think?
I mean, if you're trying to at least,
Let's say yes and no.
yeah, I guess it's a really
Let's
good.
say yes
It's
and
a yes
no.
and no. On the yes side of it, it's like if you're trying to.
You don't want to change somebody's personality.
Well, it's if you're trying to repeat, success, and that Schneider success has been going forward, and I guess from like the business standpoint that they've seen growth and profitability, and at least like low employee turnover, then that maybe is a good way to do it. But if it's opposite, and you're seeing that people are getting Schneiderized, and that there's a certain core group, and any new individual comes over is either leaving in 6 months or leaving in a year, and you're having that high turnover rate, then there's probably some cultural change that needs to happen, or, a manager, needs to figure out something, or HR needs to figure out something else about who they're hiring and who they're looking to hire.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, but back to the video, I got a totally different analogy from it. I didn't kind of view it in the organizational company perspective. I viewed it as kind of my freshman year coming onto campus. So, I mean, you meet a lot of people on move-in day, and I mean, either you'll create a bond with that person right away, or you'll be kind of an outcast in like our 8th floor. I would say we were pretty much creating bonds right away, but there are some people that didn't fit into that group and they would have to go find their own group. But I mean, it was just a way of coming together and meeting people and then seeing how people like each other or get along or what works well and what doesn't. And you kind of saw Pearl find out that she had to be somebody who she's not to make these certain groups of friends. And I feel like that's some ways in life where you had to put on this fake persona to get along with somebody that you don't like. It could be that certain grandparent or that certain somebody where you have to put on this fake show for a little bit to kind of get along with them. But I think ultimately you realize you want to be yourself, and Pearl kind of realized that through this short little Disney clip, which I thought was really cool and probably the coolest video I've ever watched for a video in a while. So I liked how you just got to see her end up being herself and being true to herself, and then it's succeeding. So I kind of view that throughout my 4 years, just being myself is kind of shown my success over my 4 years.
Great analogy. Yeah, and I think she was somebody else for how long she needed to be, right? And I think we've kind of been in those positions too, where we may adapt to the environment to fit in for a certain period of time, but if we have to do that all the time, like you saw at the end of the video, she was herself. She welcomed the next ball of yarn. She went back to being a ball of yarn and not a suit with yarn inside it. This is really silly to talk about. If you just took this little segment and didn't have any context, people would be wondering, what in the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
But, you know, if you have to, that takes a lot of energy. If you've ever tried to be somebody else, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and it's not comfortable. You worry about screwing up and you know, being discovered, quote unquote, as not being like that person. And that wears on employees and students. So you use a student example. If we have students who come to this college and feel like they need to be somebody else in order to fit in, that might last for a semester, but those are the students who won't come back. And if we bring in employees who feel like they need to be someone else to fit in, they might last a year or two and then start looking for another job. And then pretty soon we've lost that employee. And we take that, at least I do in leadership, very personally as my own mission to try to create an environment that's welcoming and can create belonging for all types of individuals and ideas. But if that's not present, it becomes a problem really quickly for an organization or for a college.
Exactly.
Let me just show you a quick visual that I thought was interesting from Better Up. Let me share. And this time I don't need audio, so I'm pretty sure this will be good. Okay. So are you seeing? I can't see what you're seeing. So.
Yep, we can see it. It's
Okay.
the circles of diversity and inclusion and equity and belonging in the middle.
Yeah, it's like a Venn diagram. 3 intersecting circles with a belonging in the middle. And I use diversity for a specific reason, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if you think of diversity about being invited to the party without having to chase the invite, all right, so we cast a wide net here at NWTC to bring in a diverse group of employees and students. And if you think of inclusion of having the music to dance to and not being judged for your moves, right, which is important to me because I have the worst moves in dancing history. It usually keeps me from dancing, but I'm terrible. And then equity, being able to attend the dance without any barriers or access issues. So I can do it, and there's nothing keeping me from being able to do it. And where all 3 of those things come together, that's where you find belonging, which I thought was an interesting way to define it. And one thing we don't have time to do today, but I'd encourage you, and we'll spend a minute on it. I'm going to stop sharing. we'll spend a minute on it. Is I don't know what the makeup of your E3 group is from a diversity perspective. Male, female, different ethnicities.
So 50-50.
We got
female,
50-50.
male, female.
Yeah, male, female, and then for majors, we have different majors.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
a critical.
I would say
one.
E3. The thing that we try to pride ourselves on is having different
All
majors. Like not just like different college and business majors, it's different majors in general.
Yeah, so we have some biology in here, which is awesome. Allie, what are you? Accounting, supply chain, marketing, finance, marketing, and then we have like some pre-med, nursing, all over the place.
Yeah. And I think, Ethan, I remember that you mentioned that to me last time we had a presentation and how important that was to the E3 group, right? So that it was accessible and open to anyone, regardless of major, to kind of develop your leadership skills, because you can lead from wherever you are in whatever industry that you're pursuing. I think that's a great vision.
Yeah,
Do you have any students of color in your group?
not really.
Ryan, she doesn't come.
Who?
Ryan.
Oh yeah, Ryan. Yep. So a couple.
I mean, at least if I'm going to be honest, like our school's diversity metrics is like plus 90% white,
Yeah.
at least. And so, like for example, in my finance club, at least like we have maybe one African American and then a couple international students, but mainly just white men and women. That's just how it is, honestly. Sadly.
Well, yeah, I just think, yeah, I kind of agree with that. But I don't know. I don't really stress about that.
No.
Well, there's only so much, I mean, within the college community that you're able to do with that, right? However, I would like you to think about that feeling of not belonging that we talked about earlier. And we talk to our students of color and our employees of color a lot here at NWTC. And we're only at about employees of color. I think we're at 9.5 or 10% right now. So it's similar to how you described the makeup of your student population. But when we put ourselves in our employee shoes, or maybe you've been in the position before, I know it's a touchy subject. We won't spend a lot of time on it, but I've walked through a room. I was at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater with someone I was dating at the time. And I am of the dominant or privileged class in about any way that you can be, right? So I'm a middle-aged, white, cisgendered male. Most environments that I go into in Northeast Wisconsin, I am completely comfortable, at least because of my appearance. No one's judging me necessarily because of how I look when I go into spaces, because I happen to be a member of all of the dominant cultures of Northeast Wisconsin. When I was at UW Whitewater and we cut through a building and there was a meeting of the Black Student Senate going on in the UW Whitewater Union. And, you know, I consider myself to be a very open-minded individual. I walk into that door and all eyes are on me. We're the only white people in that building. And we were just cutting through. We weren't intending to be a part of it. How fast do you think we walked?
Oh, you probably almost sprinted, I would guess.
And why?
Just being uncomfortable, I would imagine.
Because you know you don't belong and it feels weird not to belong.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I wasn't afraid or anything of that nature, but I did feel like this isn't for me. I'm not supposed to be here. And I walked rapidly through that union, put a smile on my face, and exited as quickly as we could on the other side of the union. And so that made me think about a similar kind of a reversal of that here at NWTC. In many of our classes, if you were, again, we'll just say a Black student, you are the only Black person in that room of 25 people. How does that feel from a belonging standpoint, potentially?
I'd just say pretty different from all of us. I mean,
I even took a
It's
class like this econ of minorities, but it focused on like the Milwaukee, and I think it was one of the few African American professors on campus. And she's like, it's so hard to retain, professors here just because there isn't a group of, professors to go to for certain individuals to like at least have like a culture in a way to have. She would tell a story. She's like, I can't get my hair done in Eau Claire. I have to drive to Minneapolis just to get my hair done because Eau Claire just doesn't have, someone who can do my hair. It's just like even just the city itself, and it's just, it's different, like very, very different for someone like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you use that example. We hear the same thing in Green Bay. We don't have. You have to know somebody who knows somebody who does hair on the side, who can do that in order to have somebody here, and somebody's got to welcome you into that environment, and that doesn't always happen. And we have the similar difficulty, at least until recently. We've seen some improvement because we've put a lot of effort into our diversity initiatives at the college. But we had been hiring more diverse employees, but when you looked at our numbers at the end of the year, the percentage wasn't any higher because we couldn't retain our diverse employees. And a lot of it was a belonging question. And so it's kind of a chicken and egg situation, because research shows that the more employees see themselves in the organization, the more likely they are to feel as though they belong in that organization, and the more likely they are to stay. Well, if you can get some momentum going and hire more diverse employees because you're looking for diversity, then you're more likely to have the folks that you hire be retained, and you can grow that number. And it's the same with students. You mentioned one faculty of color or one Black faculty member. When Black students come here, just like white students, although we probably don't even think about it, when Black students come here, they want to see examples of themselves succeeding in education. And that oftentimes is a faculty member that they can bond with. And when that doesn't happen, then we're more likely to lose that student. So we need more faculty members of color in order to continue to attract and retain students of color. So it all comes down ultimately, though, to that sense of belonging. Am I in the right place for me? Do I see other people like me? Do I talk with people who share my same values or my same history or my same shared experiences? And that's a lot harder for people in more marginalized groups than it is for people in dominant groups like mine, where I can find somebody to talk Packers and Brewers and the weather and hunting and fishing and cars and whatever I want readily in Northeast Wisconsin. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the activity that someday maybe we'll do, but it's a little deeper dive into our identity, because I just used race and ethnicity because it's very visible. But the same goes in LGBTQ, IA plus communities, gender in different professions in particular is a topic for this. And how can we in workplaces create an environment where those individuals who may not be a part of the dominant group still feel like they belong? And that's where we want to transition to next. But any thoughts before I do that?
No.
Okay. So a couple things, statistics, because I know it's important. 56% of employees with a strong sense of belonging. Employees with a strong sense of belonging have a 56% higher level of performance. So think about that. A 56% higher level of performance if they report a strong level of belonging. The impact of belonging on employee happiness has become even more important as we went virtual. and you can think about why you feel even more isolated now potentially in the workforce than maybe you did in the past or even there at UW Eau Claire. So about a 12% increase in the impact of belonging on employee happiness during the pandemic. So belonging has become even more important for our mental health, for happiness, and also belonging leads to employee engagement. And engaged employees, and this is from Gallup, you may have heard statistics like this before, but engaged employees are 22% more profitable to the company than not engaged or actively disengaged, which is a whole another bucket. So that sense of belonging becomes critical for success for any organization. So let me share with you just one more slide on some tips on building belonging. And I would love some more thoughts from each of you, because I still feel like school environments, that's an area rife, and many of you are already in the workplace in different ways. So you've seen this. Let me share the screen again.
Well, yeah, while you're pulling up your slide, a couple things to comment on was that I ended up working an internship last fall, so kind of in that big COVID kind of thing, and the internship was a wealth management internship, and I was supposed to be able to sit on client meetings. And when I wasn't able to, just because of the COVID, I ended up doing a lot more paperwork, kind of a little bit more remedial things. But at that same time, when the analysts or the advisors would, come up and tell me, how much this means to them, if they didn't have to do this, if someone if they had to do this is how much time it would take. This is how much, makes their life easier. It's like, someone didn't constantly tell me that and appreciate it. I would have said, screw it. Like, this is a terrible internship. Like, I'm doing paperwork, although it was, great to see how it was. And on the other side of it too, it's like, I have a really great connection with one of my professors, him and I go out for coffee once in a while. He asked, asked me to bring in speakers for the class, things like that. It's like, I know for a fact that, maybe my grade wasn't, as dependent, but I wouldn't be as engaged. I don't think I would have as close as a connection or, want to have other people join that class if I didn't have a professor that was willing to engage me and, have a sense of belonging for myself as well too.
Yeah, thanks for that example. And that's exactly what I was getting at when I asked you earlier if there was somebody, when you shared your story of when you were less engaged, where you didn't feel like you belonged from a band standpoint. Was there somebody to kind of help you, or Abby, who also shared her story, to help you feel that sense of belonging, or who you grew a relationship with in order to create a more comfortable environment? And you just shared that supervisor, or that other person leading the internship, was that person for you. And as I share the tips that are on your screen now, I believe, building belonging, a few things. And the first is knowing how you're tracking. And that's really just understanding from your employee's perspective, how are you doing from a belonging standpoint? And that we do through things like engagement surveys, which we do once every couple of years here at the college, but also just one-on-one conversations. How are things going in the team? Are you feeling included? Are there things that you wish you were a part of that you haven't been a part of? And then creating social bonds, and that is a great example of what you just shared, Carter. Creating those bonds with people, either your leader, teammates, or as a leader, trying to build those bonds for individuals, introduce them to other people around the college. We also at NWTC are starting a mentoring program for all of our new employees. We're starting with a pilot group of our new employees of color, trying to create relationships, which gets right into number 3 as well, building trusting relationships. And how do you do that? How do you build a trusting relationship with someone? Let's say you're in a leadership role and you have a new employee and you want to help create some belonging. How do you build a trusting relationship?
Communication.
Yeah, that's one way.
I think it's a little bit even just like deeper communication, not just like about, this is what you're supposed to do. It's like asking how they did on their weekends and stuff, and asking about if they have any siblings or certain things going on. It's more about having that, not that surface level, but actually kind of digging it deeper and making an interpersonal kind of connection instead of just being a surface level. I'm your boss. This is my employee. It's kind of more of that family aspect of it.
Yeah, get to know the person. You're leading human beings. And human beings have interests. They have hobbies. They have things they like to do that you can, likely find a commonality with just about anybody if you look hard enough. And those commonalities or those bonds help to create that trust for you and within the team. Being intentional about inclusion. So here's an example I'll give you briefly. We have part-time employees. We have full-time employees. You mentioned your internship before. As an intern, you were treated just like the full-time employees. That's a great example about being intentional about inclusion. In some areas, some leaders that I've seen not be so good at this, they'd have a team builder with their team and they wouldn't invite their part-time employees. Or they'd have a happy hour and the part-time employees were asked to cover the desk or the phones and the full-time went out and enjoyed a happy hour. That's not building inclusion. That's exclusion. And that creates a lack of a sense of belonging. Bringing belonging out into the open, it'd be okay talking about, it's important. Belonging is an important thing, and talking with your team about the importance of that when you bring new teammates on, for example. It doesn't have to be a word. It's a touchy-feely sounding word, right? Belonging. We need to create belonging and inclusion. But when you really get down to the importance of it from a human need standpoint, and then creating a shared vision and helping individuals see their role. So earlier when we talked about belonging, a couple of you mentioned being a part of something bigger than yourself, having a purpose. Well, in the work world, that's how am I connected to the work of the college or work of the organization, right? What is my job? What do my talents do to help us reach our vision and our goals? And as a leader, if I can help my employees see how they are specifically contributing, how they are specifically connected and what their role is, that helps to create that inclusion and that belonging that we're looking for to increase engagement. Well, I think I'm at my time. Did the stop sharing work? Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm okay to answer a couple of questions yet if folks have them. I have a few minutes if you don't have to log off right away.
Any questions for Tim tonight?
I personally have to run to lacrosse.
Yeah, go for it. But yeah, Tim, I don't think we have any questions for you. I sent them your email, LinkedIn, if they have any questions to connect with you, shoot you a message. Once again, we appreciate having you as a connection. You've been great. I think this one has been a really helpful presentation for myself as a senior, but also for freshmen, sophomores, juniors to kind of understand that belonging is more than just a workplace. It's also here on campus and pretty much everywhere. So I really appreciate this valuable hour of your day.
Yeah, no, I have to go to lacrosse practice right now, and I actually lead the practice and kind of going through that belonging sense of it. It's like, thinking about the players that aren't as skilled, they have a role in a way and trying to make them feel like it belongs. So I'm going to use some of your tips and kind of maybe close my eyes and put myself in that situation again and what it felt like not to belong. And hopefully I can get everybody included that needs to be included.
That's awesome. And I would say anyone else, next time you see someone who looks awkward or lost or like they're disengaged, they don't feel like they fit in, somebody new to your area or to your club, reach out, help them create that sense of belonging for themselves, and they'll achieve more and you'll achieve more because of it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.